welcome to Family. We've got your back. Episode 62, take 2 again. Because guess what? I was trying to advance the slides and I
made a
stopped
mistake.
The video.
We were only 5 minutes in this time.
Well, instead of all the way done. I'm not allowed to run the computer anymore. Oh my word.
Nope.
Okay, so anyway, I'm Michelle Christensen.
I'm Trent Christensen.
I graduated with a family science degree and I'm a stay-at-home mom.
And I am a math teacher at a middle school.
Woot woot.
Right.
Yeah, so this last week I took my daughters. Anyway, long story. And we went down to his parents' house.
The homestead.
To the homestead is what we call it. For a wedding shower for his niece. His second brother's oldest daughter. There you go. Congratulations, Baron.
Yes, indeed.
Nope, Haven.
Oh.
Sorry. That is something I do all the time. I still call my oldest daughter, my sister's name. It's not an offense. It's more just moron moments, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry. Congratulations, Haven and Colin. We're excited for you. Anyway, and the sister-in-law, Sherry, she's the oldest brother's wife. I have to make the distinction because in my family there's a sister-in-law, right? And so in his there's lots.
Yep.
So we have to make the distinction. Anyway, so Sherry is taking a class and she is observing right now so that she can eventually teach. And it's helped her a great deal, and she even taught a little bit to us, and it was great, and we really enjoyed it. But this time she was talking about it, and she mentioned something to me that really stuck with me, and I thought we could create this week's podcast with that idea. And she said, when you give unsolicited advice, the person getting the advice usually feels persecuted instead of benefited or helped
Enabled.
Or whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
They don't feel the benefit of your wisdom.
Yeah, they just feel judged.
Yeah. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So
How dare you say that when you got this and this and this and this?
Right. It's like your life isn't perfect. Who are you to tell me what to do, right? And we'll talk about ways to be able to give advice without being obnoxious. It's in your interpersonal relationships, because with Trent, what he was saying earlier was he's a math teacher and he has to give unsolicited advice all day long, every day, because he's the teacher.
Yeah, it's like it's my job to solicit advice.
No, give unsolicited advice.
Oh,
You're teaching them something. You're telling them to do something.
Yep.
And they need to do it the way you say they need to do it. Or they don't pass.
Or they don't learn.
They don't learn.
They don't learn.
Like they have to do what you say, right? Because that's the power dynamic of your situation. So these things that we're talking about are for interpersonal relationships, not power dynamic type, where one's the boss and one is the subordinate.
Yeah,
okay?
We don't want to be held responsible for you defying your boss.
Right? It's like, well, you just gave me unsolicited advice and I feel persecuted, so I'm going to complain to HR. That's not how it works. Right? So, like, there's no HR in your family. Ooh, we should have an HR where the complaints are filed. And guess where they go?
The round file?
Yep.
We're on the same page.
Okay, anyway. So I'm not going to make the same mistake. We're actually going to touch this screen instead of the other one and not pause the video so we don't have to start a third time.
So
the 5 common relationship mistakes is what we're talking about this week. And we asked our kids.
We did.
And we have 5 kids, but funnily enough, only 2 answered. And they gave a
came up with
lot
some
of
good
things. So anyway.
Yeah.
So the first one is thinking you're right when you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, give us an example. And
He couldn't.
He couldn't really. It was more just like, you're wrong and I'm right, and you think you're right and you're not, and so, but you're in charge and I have to live with it.
And you know, every relationship requires a certain level of humility.
Yes.
Humility is the word I was looking for.
Yes, I think that's the answer to this one right here. Is
because you're going to be wrong.
Being willing to see things from another perspective,
Yes.
especially when you're dealing with your kids.
Mm-hmm. Or relationships, yeah.
Yeah, or whatever.
Whatever.
It's like my way of viewing things or living in the world, it may not be the way you see it.
Yeah.
May
well,
not, you know, and so you've got to put a little bit of benefit of the doubt, or willing to learn, willing to hear their side.
Yeah, at least, we live in such a oppositional world right now where, you know, you feel that something is right, the other person feels that the other way that they're thinking is so right. And so instead of having a conversation and just agreeing to disagree, it's all fisticuffs and you're a hateful person and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you can just recognize that you see things differently.
Sometimes.
And, right. And be okay with that. There's no harm in that. No.
Yeah.
You know, and so with relationships, if you know that you're right or think that you know that you're right, just be aware that you might not be.
Yeah, that's why people are told not to talk about politics, religion, or money in polite company.
You're right.
It's like, wowza.
So many different variables.
And we're not saying don't talk about those things, because they do need to be spoken about. Mm-hmm. It's more just be aware that there are other opinions out there.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with your children, before there's punishment meted out,
listen.
Be aware of the situation and make sure that you understand their point of view and the whys of the behavior as well.
Yeah. Don't just get triggered.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going.
Wow, that's a new one. I've never seen that. Okay, so 2, jumping to conclusions. Yeah, that happens a lot.
You know, with teenagers, it is going to happen a lot. And you do have to be concerned about things.
Well, yeah.
But don't jump to conclusions.
Right. It's like, why are you late for curfew? Well, I was studying and I lost track of time. Oh, well, next time set an alarm so you know you're home on time.
Right.
So, you get a pass, but next time you're late, no matter the reason, the consequences happen. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just, however you parent, right?
Yep. Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm trying to phrase it properly. If you jump to conclusions and you're correct, people think you're intuitive. If you jump to conclusions and you're wrong, people think you're
a jerk.
What? Okay then. Interfering or presumptuous, right? So just be sure that you try to communicate that you understand what they're wanting from you before you act.
And if you don't feel if you feel
so it's tricky.
It's
like
tricky.
Because we want to avoid the situation where we're wrong and we're presumptuous and a jerk.
As parents, we have to make calls when we think maybe our kids are not being completely truthful.
Or their
whatever.
safety is involved.
Right.
Right? Or, as a parent, you're supposed to keep your kid alive, right? And so if you jump to the conclusion and you were wrong, but you saved their life or whatever, you kept them from harm, but they weren't in danger, then that's better than if you didn't jump to a conclusion and they got hurt.
And so, and it's not, it would be completely appropriate to communicate, this is how I see this.
Unless it's a quick emergency, there are kids in the road and there's a car coming, there is no conversation.
No conversation.
Are you in the road for fun, or is there a reason you're in the road? No, you get them out of the road, right? Like, so jumping, and so obviously there are times when jumping to conclusions is the correct thing to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Safety is the number one option. But when it's like a lack of a conversation occurs and then consequences happen, that's when you need to avoid that. Yeah.
And the easiest way to deal with that, of course, is just to have the talk. And it may not be comfortable at first, but if you find out that there was good that was happening, or at least a reasonable situation, then that conversation happens and it unfolds very nicely.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't unfold nicely, then at least right? That you're there to be supportive of whatever it is that you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's not just a parent-child relationship that jumping to conclusions can cause problems. Like when I was at work and there was a line and they needed help, and so I jumped in to help, and that irritated them. They did not want my help because it just confused them and they had to start over. And I was like, yikes, okay, because I was trying to help, and so I guess next time, would you like some help? What would you like me to do? How would you like me to help you?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to just back off? It's like, right? So that would have been better than just jumping in, right? So jumping to conclusions. Yeah. Just be careful.
Tricky.
Make sure you have all the information before you make a decision and act, right? Okay, so what's the third?
Hypocrisy.
So this is one our kids. Yeah, this is our daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. Or son.
Hypocrisy is a huge thing in the world.
Clean your room, but your room's a mess.
Yeah. We all can't be perfect all of the time, so we're all hypocrites in some fashion, right?
Yes, we are, but let's try not to magnify that.
Right.
Especially in a power dynamic situation as parent and child, right? Or spouse. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know.
And so here's a beautiful way. If you are actually wanting your friend or your spouse or whatever to do something, then you can
ask nicely,
but you could say, hey, I noticed that we're both doing this. Should we work on this together?
That would be better.
That would be better. Like if that way you're both, if you view some weakness for them, and you want to call it out somehow, then
especially in a marriage relationship, like you leave your dirty socks in a ball on the floor and I have to pick them up. That's not you. That's not.
I felt like you were talking to me.
No. I'm saying this is a common problem that some people have, right? It's like, that's disgusting, right?
Yeah.
You're very good about putting your socks in the hamper.
Thank you.
Making them flat so they're not a ball, right?
Yeah, because they don't get washed if they're in a ball.
Right, so good job.
Yeah.
Apparently I'm a bad mother because our kids leave them in a wad in the living room, and it's gross. Anyway, but I do something that annoys you, right?
You do?
No. You know what I mean. We're having a fake issue.
We're having a
vacation. your dirty socks in the middle of the floor that I have to pick up.
Yeah.
And my fake thing annoys you, right?
Yes.
And so, well, you always this, and using the word always makes you bad. So it really, it makes you a hypocrite, you know, and you always do this. No, that's not true. So anyway, so what we're saying is avoiding being a hypocrite can include, I realize that I am not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you approach it instead of I'm the offended party in this situation and therefore I am correcting you, when that's not your place, right? Like in a marriage partnership, you can make pleasant requests, but will you pick up those socks because that's disgusting and that makes you kind of a hypocrite because it's like, oh, well, you're perfect. But thanks for the advice, you know? So, So, I think everybody gets hypocrisy. Okay, so the next one is the unsolicited advice that Sherry was talking about. And so to avoid the persecuting complex that people can get, you can say, would you like to hear what I think about it? And if they say no, then you shut your mouth, right?
Yeah.
And if they say yeah, don't do it now. Well, you need to do this. You know, you need to present it in a way that's actually not condescending. Because giving unsolicited advice in a condescending manner can really be obnoxious.
I need to throw this out there, too.
Uh-oh.
No, this is... so, my mom has a real talent for giving...
Couching her advice in love.
Completely. Completely.
And I'm not making fun.
No,
like she's a pro. That you don't even realize you've been corrected.
Well, you do, but you're still happy about it. So, a very subtle thing, and I think Brandon does it too. Have you considered?
Oh, have you considered?
Or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's advice. It's unsolicited.
It's thought provoking rather than
so it's giving the
command.
person a choice.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really awesome.
Yeah. So those are a couple ways to do it, and I'm sure there's plenty more that you could come up with.
Did you think about doing it this way?
And
that starts to cross
crosses the line a little bit,
right? But if you...
I just had a thought. Would you like to hear it?
Uh-huh.
Because you, as the outsider, you're not clouded, by emotion and embroiled in the situation and so you can see clearly, and therefore they need to have the benefit of your clear vision.
Yeah, professionally, they always
I'm
encourage,
not your therapist.
They encourage teachers to watch other teachers teach. Even if it's not the same content, because they still might be able to give you constructive criticism, right? And that's unsolicited advice, but it still benefits, So, there's plenty of room for learning how to improve, and there's tactful ways to do it, even when it's unsolicited.
Yeah, so just be careful on your loving care for other people in your desire to help them. The last one we're discussing tonight is discounting or minimizing. This one, our son?
No.
No, it was Esther?
This
our oldest?
Esther,
yeah. So apparently, just because there are children doesn't mean their voice doesn't matter or their opinion doesn't matter, right? And so when you're like, oh, well, that's not a big deal.
It's my way or the highway. Yeah.
It's a big deal to them.
It is.
And same with, your interpersonal relationships and not just your parent-child relationships, if you have that. It's, if you are putting yourself above them in some way or valuing your own opinion or someone else's opinion over theirs, It's like, thanks for putting me on the
Yeah,
bottom
this
rung.
one's very much tied to number one, right? When
Yeah.
thinking you're right when you're wrong.
Well, yeah,
It's not quite
it
the
does
same,
have
but-
uh-oh.
It's still going.
Oh, it's still going. Woo, I thought I did it again. And we're almost done. Again, not allowed to do the technology. Okay, so with this last one, the minimizing or discounting, that is really hurtful.
Yeah.
I can remember a time when I saw that and what that happened to my mother, and I was so angry on her behalf. Because it was a big deal what was just being discussed, and because of her specific situation, she was
Just discounted.
you
Doesn't
you don't
matter.
count.
That doesn't matter.
They actually said, "Oh, your opinion doesn't matter. You don't count." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
A little dose of humility would be appropriate.
Wow,
Here. Yeah.
especially when you're discussing money. Wow. So anyway, just be careful that you realize that you love these people that you're in a relationship with, right? That you like them. That's why you have relationships with them.
Yeah.
I mean, coworkers, you can choose to care about them, but these are your interpersonal relationships. Relationships that in a marriage relationship, you've chosen, and then you chose to have children if you are married and have children, or other relationships in your life besides your immediate family. Like the friendships that you have, these are people you choose to have in your life. And so if you discount their opinion or minimize their emotions or their situation, so that's not so hard. My life is so much harder. It's like, no. So you got to remember that they are equal. They are your equals. And a lot of these things that we're talking about tonight have to do with realizing that you are not better than them, but that you are equals.
Yeah.
And that you are friends, partners. You are in a relationship, and nobody gets to make other people's choices for them.
And
Nobody.
and this is a place, even when you have a higher lower
power dynamic.
You still need to consider that. I often forget with my students. Some of them are really in a really awful place with their living situations or their family situations or their emotional stuff. And so when we have meetings where we're talking about these students and their situation comes about, automatically I have compassion for them, even though they make my classroom complete chaos.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I need to rethink my relationship with them.
Yeah, I get it. A little care can go a long way, but you got to behave. And so, right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so
don't minimize.
Just because you were, if it is a power dynamic that you were in and you're the higher power, I guess, that does not mean that your opinion or their worth as a person is less than yours.
Right.
Right? We all have worth. We are all have awesome potential, right? And so we don't get to say I am better than you.
Or more
important than you, even in a power dynamic. Right? Like, I mean, so just be careful in your interpersonal relationships and even in your business relationships or power dynamic relationships that you do not discount the people you have charge over and care for. Okay, so our challenge for this week is, I can't read it. Hang on. I can't read backwards. What behaviors do you exhibit in your relationships that get in the way? Like pride or this inequality of I'm better than you type
any
thing.
Of these things we've talked about.
Yeah, any of the behaviors that cause problems where I'm free with my advice and I don't care if you want it or not type thing.
Yeah.
Right? So examine that. Examine the things that get in the way of your relationships and make an effort to just change something.
Yeah.
Do one thing. Do one thing this week to improve.
Yeah. Have an open conversation with that person or whatever.
And say,
right?
apologize and say, I'm sorry that this has been the way it is with us. I'm going to do better.
Yeah, let's do better.
I'm going to do better. Would you like to join me in that or something? Whatever. Okay. Have a great week.
Yep. Bye.